So hi YouTube. This guy right here is Russell Nohelty. He is a really, really incredible indie comics creator and publisher. Among other things, he's done a lot of great education in the space for indie authors. Um, I saw him recently at an event, which, well, we can get into that if you want. But I loved it. It was an incredible event. That exact event won't be coming back, unfortunately, but it was an incredible time. And yeah, I mainly wanted to talk with Russell just because I've known him for years. And when I put out the call to interview, he said, "Well, I can talk about being an artist in a capitalist dystopia," which is also the topic of his latest handbook. So, Russell, anything you want to pitch in there before I dive into my questions?
I don't think so. I just launched this program called Capitalist
Hmm.
on the author stack, and I'm really excited about it. It basically takes all of the stuff that I've taught for the past 15 years and the new book, How to Thrive as a Writer in a Capitalist Dystopia. And then also, so it's all of this, like over 1,000 posts, but then I trained a digital brain on how to on all of it. And so like you can use that now to like guide yourself instead of me having to guide everyone because I mean, this is just one universe of writing. So I've written a lot in my career. So I was really excited to find this like digital brain chat bot thing that I could train exclusively on my work that could like mimic, at least give people direction where I don't have the opportunity to give direction. And so I'm really excited about this whole concept of capitalism where you invest in your happiness and your life as much as you invest in your business. And I mean, I think that's kind of where the future is going. I hope that's where the future is going. And I'm excited to kind of like hopefully be at the beginning of that trend.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because me coming from a more capital M marketing background, I think a lot of people are starting to trend in that direction even there, right? I mean, that might strike us as a little bit more obvious on the creative side because that tension has always been there. But I feel like even a lot of people who just see themselves as in business, right, are coming to similar conclusions right now.
Yeah, well, like we have been told that there's an endpoint of business. Even if you're using like
Right.
money as the endpoint, it's like, okay, eventually most people, there are some people that understand that mo there will never be enough money and they keep going for it. But I think generally, especially like millennials, Gen X people specifically, like on some level boomers, but like specifically like millennials and Gen X people, like they were told like there's an end to your quest for money. And that end of a quest for money is retirement or the good life or all of this stuff. And now like the goalposts keep moving. It's like it's not enough to have 3 million for retirement. You need 5 million. You need, and you're like, okay, but like if I'm never go, and this is something that I think Europeans do really well. It's like they realized early that like their lives were not going to get better. Like that like they were never going to get to be rich. Like they were not going to get to be a duke or a baron or whatever. Like they were just like stuck being a pastry clerk. And like they were like, but like what if I just like liked being a pastry clerk? Like what if I like took joy in that thing? And what if society in large, like, gave me enough time to enjoy my entire life? So, like, this whole, like, kind of hyper capitalist market has been like, oh, we're moving and moving and moving to this world where, like, we're going to have enough money. We finally get to, like, stop. And, like, that just is not the case. So it makes so much sense that like people even in these capitalist markets are being like, wait, so I have to work 12 hours a day forever? Like that is not the goal. That is not what I signed up for. I was like I will work 12 hours a day for like 5 years. And then I will never work a day in my life again. And like that is the world that I get to. But like all of these people we idolize like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, like these are people that didn't just work when don't just work when they wanted to. Like they still, even as a billionaire, are working. Like Elon Musk is sleeping in his office. And I'm like, but like you are worth like $260 billion. Like if
Right.
Like that's not enough for you. Like you actually you've trained yourself, you've wired yourself to want to work for 18 hours a day. And that is just like not the one, son. Like that's not the life that I think anyone really wants to leave. And I just went to Europe. And it's like, yeah, the waiter like seemed pretty pleasant. Like the people that worked at the thing were like, oh yeah, like I met someone, they were like, oh yeah, I'm going to my summer home. And I'm like, you drive a cab. And they're like, yeah, but I spend my summer, I only work on the cab thing like during tourist season, and then I go to my summer home. And I'm like, oh, and you as a cab driver have enough money to not just own a place in Prague, I think it was in Prague or Vienna, but like you also own a summer home. Like, and you don't work, you work like not every day, not 12 hours a day. And so it's such like a flawed system. It was always a flawed system, but like it's just like the flaws have just kept ratcheting up, right?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting the Elon Musk example because I think again for people of a certain creative stripe, it's easy to look at that as kind of foolish, right? Like why are you putting yourself through this pain still? But the example I think that's maybe a little bit more positive that comes to mind is someone like Adam Sandler, who got to a point in his career where it's like, well, shit, he does not have to keep working, right? Like especially because he actually lives a pretty simple lifestyle. Like he's not flashy. And yet, not only has he kept working, he's like made it a point to for a while it was like, well, let me just like employ all my friends and like take us on, shoots to exotic
Right.
locations and create paid vacations, right? But even beyond that, especially in the last few years, he's gone out of his way to like, you know what, let me go back to like stretching my creative abilities, right? And like that's clearly not about the money because
Right.
none of those products are going to make as much money as his other stuff, but he still has that creative itch and like he's kind of got the perfect setup now because it's not he doesn't have to do it for the money, he can just do it.
Yeah.
um
And I don't think that anyone is it. I don't think anyone who thinks seriously about this is like, okay, you're not going to work when you retire. Like you
right,
probably are doing some work, like just like the work you want. And I think studies have shown generally like people want to work for like 3 to 4 hours a day. They just want to do it on like things that are meaningful to them. And I just don't believe that sitting in your on your bathroom toilet at 3 a.m. yelling at people is something that like you want to do. If that
right,
is a thing you want to do, then you have vastly gone off the rails.
right, right. Yeah, there's different priorities to say the least. So one thing I wanted to make sure we touch on here, and I'm actually very, very curious to get into the AI stuff too, but one of the quotes that always stuck with me in terms of like your perspective on capitalism is like you said it's not 2 + 2 = 4. It's like cheeseburger plus
Yeah,
cat equals something, right?
sure. Yeah, it's
Um,
like squirrel plus potato equals two, but it always equals that.
right. Which that's really been eye-opening for me as far as like especially on the creative side, right? Because it's like for me, I can rationalize how business works, right? When it comes to creative business, I still bump up against this like I guess like a sense of like moral purity where it's like, oh, but I want it to work this way, right? And like there, I think especially the rule of, squirrel plus steak equals cow, whatever, like really applies
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely. And like I think that so like I think a lot of people take this as like, okay, I have to do the thing that equals the most money and the creativity. And like that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you make a book with a mafia hitman as the and like a dark romance with like a mafia hitman and like a cute ingenue, like that will make more money than a book about a Portal Fantasy squirrels. And like I want the Portal Fantasy squirrels to do better. In my mind, like that's the book that I want to read. But like you should not be surprised. Like, if you plug in like certain elements, the odds that you will have more money is higher. And like, if you want to write your other book, you should do it, but you should do it with your eyes wide open that like you're not going to make as much money. And I think like I worked in movies when I first started my career, and there was always that like make one for the studio, make one for me idea, where it's like I make one for my agent, I make one to make the money, and then I could do my weird projects. And there's this I like the negative of this like creative fueled soul thing is that like they want to be able to just make their weird thing, but then they complain that they don't make money. And like, yes, you need like if you look back at all of your favorite like creators, they had like a money book, a money series. Like they had like Leonardo da Vinci was getting patrons to like do portraits and like they were and if you just go back, all of these people were making a living doing something, even if that wasn't the work that they wanted to do. And if you do not have a signature series or a thing, or like it's going to be harder. And so, what I want to be able to do when I sit down with somebody and I talk to a client is like, okay, but there was like, was there a reasonable expectation that this book, like how did your book do? It did like 300 units. I wanted it to do 30,000 units. And I'm like, okay, but like, was that like, let's look logically at all of these things. Like you made a book that might only have 300 fans in the whole world. You do not have the audience to support like you selling 30,000 books and have because you don't have evangelists. So like in what world that a book that has no market appeal and does not have a readership already built in that like will buy it, like what in what world do you expect that to make money? And their answer is just like, well, because I love it. And I'm like, I understand. I love my dog. Do you know how much money my dog has made for me over the years? $0. And you should not, you should make the thing that you want, but you should understand the market conditions going into it. I always talk about cozy mystery. Okay, so when you do a cozy mystery, paranormal cozy mystery, you will make more money if your person is a witch than like a psychic or like a werewolf. You just like will make more money. And so like if you decide that you have to make this person a psychic, okay, like you're gonna make less money. Also, if you set that person as the owner of a bake shop or a coffee house or a tea house, you will make more money. You can make them a pawn shop owner, you can make them a teacher, you'll make less money. So like if you understand that, you can say things like, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter if they're a psychic or a witch. I'm just going to call them a witch. You might say, actually, like, it's really relevant to the core of this story that, like, they own a pawn shop or whatever that thing is. And so, like, I understand I'm going to make less money. And then sometimes you'll be like, oh, great. It made way more money than I thought. But if it makes very little money and you made a book that can make very little money, then you should not be upset that your expectation and meets reality.
Yeah, I think there's something in there too about scope, which has been is maybe more of an issue in the video game world, which is where I've been working. But the like even the idea, okay, like let's take a look at a book, right? Or a series for that matter. Because I know you've done this where it's like you'll write like a whole series at a time. But that's also with much you've already thought through a lot of these issues. Um, in my mind, it's like, well, if you have a really weird concept you want to test, can it be a short story first? Can you float that around, right? Because you can
Right.
bang that out in a weekend. You know,
Right.
that's not going to take you months of time to write. And like that's something I think for anyone, because I'm very much wired this way, right? I love chasing my weird creative rabbit holes, but I'm very strategic about let me make this a very small test versus something that's going to take over months of my life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when I started doing my first series, it was on my most popular graphic novel. I turned it into a book. And then, like, I did that with my second most popular graphic novel. And so, like, I knew there was already, so there's like two ways that you can really build steam. One is I have an audience for my weird thing already. And my audience then goes out and propagates all of the people. Or there is, I'm going to make something to the market, and then the market is going to and because there's a there's arbitrage, there's more demand than there is supply because there's a hungry market that, and I'm going into it. The market itself is going to propagate the thing for you. And like what you find, and if you have do one, you probably shouldn't run a ton of ads because like the market doesn't care. So like don't do that.
Right.
Like like I only run ads on the things that are very clearly written to market. And but like on the other hand, if you have something that's very mass market, like you might not get a lot of people in your audience like talking about it because they can just find it everywhere. So like you might not need if you are the kind of creator who is really good, for instance, on social media and getting virality, then like you might not need an email list because you can just go and get virality. Like you just can like make the thing that has you can just be James Cameron. Like, I don't think James Cameron needs an email list because his stuff is so mass market, everyone wants it. But
Yeah.
like Wes Anderson does. Like Wes Anderson needs an email list because like what he needs is the people that want to go deep with him. And what you have is this clash of like what you see in creativity, whether it's video games with all of this stuff, are these people that clash over this thing? Do I need pen names or do I not? Do I make a small game or do I hire a staff? And it's like, well, like it's not that easy. Like, what are the conditions? If you're making Super Meat Wad, like you probably should have like a three-person team until you know that that thing's going to get huge at least. Or what's
Right.
the night game? Like the one where they like the super popular one about the anyway,
Shovel
whatever.
Knight. Yeah.
Yes, that one, Shovel Knight. It's like, well, you probably should have made that with a two-person team because like I don't know, like it's a shovel and a knight. Like it ended up working,
Yeah.
but like there's a lot of other games that are like it that didn't work. And like that game just did not need a 500 person team. But like also if you have a 500 person team, you better be making a game that can support a 500 person team, which is where you have to be like, okay, like this and this and this and this. It doesn't mean like people always think that this means compromising the vision. It's not compromising the vision. It's saying this is the vision. Are there things that I can do to like make it more popular? Because every decision you make is going to make your piece more popular or less popular. And do I have an audience that is going to be like super hot for it, or do I have an audience that is going to consume it like like Wordle. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, a lot of people love Wordle, but like I would be surprised if there are 500 comment threads about like today's Wordle word besides saying it was too hard, it was too easy. Whereas
Right.
like there are whole streams of people talking about one Skyrim book. Like, and that is how it was built.
Yeah. There's so many great hooks in there. One thing I want to tease on a little bit is you said something really interesting about running paid ads only to something you know is relatively mass market. That is a gold nugget because even just in plain old business marketing world, I see a lot of people make the mistake of, well, I don't have customers, and paid traffic is how you go to buy customers. So let me go buy customers for my offer. And it's like, well, if anything, my instincts these days are like, no, 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 validate that through literally anything but paid media first, right?
Right.
Like you should be validating that through an email list, through a social following, whatever, right? But something that's free because again, unless you have like a ton of experience to know that it's like mass market built, um, paid media is not easy, right? It is a steep learning curve.
Right.
Um, and even best case scenario, to your point, I'd love to hear you expand a little bit more on this, is like to even get a return on paid media, especially these days, because it's only getting more competitive every day. Like there have to be certain economics just built in. There has to be a certain amount of appeal. Otherwise, you're just throwing money in a pit.
Yeah, I mean, I lost $28,000 doing this last year and like I had a pretty good I mean, it converted at like 1%, which is not like grand, but it's fine. I mean, it's like in the realm. Like we were getting people for like between $1.50 and $2, and like that's anything between 1 and 3 is like not is like a reasonable range. Like converting between 1 and 3% is like a reasonable range. So like,
Hmm.
and like still like we did all of these things, and still like in general like I lost $28,000, and I did that because I could not convert on the back end offer. Like I did not have an offer high enough. So you will never make money on paid media on like just one small offer. Like you
Yep.
need probably something between 27 and $97, or like a free thing that then has like a 27 and $97 conversion hook. But then you also need something that's somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000, because like your ads will not make money. This is something that I learned after I ran thousands upon thousands of dollars in ads last year and burned all of it because I just did not have the right alignment. Like if I had made something that was more aligned at the beginning, could have probably made a $27. So like what we found out was, if I put the words get 1,000 pre-orders, that would be like, I was like, I should have made that to be the hook. And
Mm.
then I probably could have sold like that. And then if I had made like $1,000 thing about like the publishing system, I could have like made that probably work for like $1,000. But like even then, you need a minimum of 2 orders to make that ad work. Now, there are authors in certain genres that can make this work. Like if they have a lot of money behind, like because fiction and nonfiction and business stuff are so much like to get fiction ads just run way, 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 way cheaper. So you could still get someone to opt in for like 25 to 50 cents or so, which is pretty good. And then convert into like a $47 offer, and that's your like high-end offer. So like those things are possible. But even then, you need to have like a winning ad and a winning offer. Like how many books, which books. Probably don't put your weirdest books in that bundle unless you're like a bonus. Like put your most popular books in that bundle. And the thing with paid media is if you have a little fire, it can turn it into a huge fire. But if you have nothing, it won't do anything. And so I
Yep.
tell people there are 4 media channels. There is owned, which is the stuff you own, not your social media channel, like your website, your email list, things that you control almost completely. There's borrowed, which is, I guess, kind of what we're doing here. Like people write for the author stack. I go on other people's podcasts. Like this is not my audience. I'm not paying for this audience. And like you're not writing about this, my audience. We're doing this kind of collaboration together. So sometimes it's writing a blog post, sometimes it's showing up on a thing, sometimes it's doing a webinar, but like we're borrowing each other's audiences when you do that. There's paid media we already talked about. And then there's earned media, which is PR, which is like getting press for something. Usually PR should be the last thing that you do, because unless you have like, because like again, just like paid media, if they don't have a nugget of newsworthiness, like if you don't have Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover of your magazine or whatever, like unless you are unless there's a reason for them to care about you or their audience to care about you, the earned media is going to be nowhere. Maybe they'll do an interview with you, probably 99.9. So like you should do that once you have an audience. So if you're like, well, you could probably do all 3 of those, but like you probably want to get your owned media down first, because like then when you borrow people's audiences, you can be like, go to theauthorstack.com or go to my website or whatever. And like then you have it on lock that like the borrowed media and the owned media go together. Probably like you wouldn't start going to do webinars for someone until you had an offer that like you knew converted with your own audience, so that you can then like replicate it and make changes for other people's audiences. So like it kind of naturally flows out that like probably you need a website and an email list first, because like that is going to be your profit center. Then like probably before you do paid ads, you should test with borrowed media, doing blog posts for other people, doing and seeing like what people want, seeing like what stuff gets collaborations, and then probably once you have that offer, you should do paid media. Like, and then after you do paid media and you're sort of like throwing a gasoline on the fire, then you can do earned media once like you already have a name and your next program comes out as well. I'm not saying you have to go that way, but if you're looking to like you need one channel, one of those four, you need to be able to dominate and you need one strategy inside of that media channel. So like it might be I know how to build my email list. It might be I know how to go and get press and whatever that thing is. Like you don't have to be great at all of those things. You have to pick one and then a strategy inside it. And like if it's website, then it means you have to do really great at SEO. If it's like email list, you got to figure out how to like get people onto your email list. Whatever that thing is, like then you can become incredibly successful. And then you can either hire or learn other strategies outside of that. But yeah, I don't remember what we're talking about, but like I think probably paid media. And I could show you every single path that has ever gotten people on my list and how many people are still on my list from it. And like the owned media stuff is best because but also it is hard to get organic traffic when nobody knows who you
Yeah.
are. So like you got to figure out a way for that to happen. And like so it's like a hard game of to like figure out what to like where each thing fits in. But I break it down to you need a discovery channel like a channel, whether that is a podcast or a blog or social, whatever. You need a an acquisition channel is where like you are converting people into paid. You need like an offer who like something that people want and somebody's to want it. So an audience. And like if you have a discovery channel, an acquisition channel, a product and an audience, then like you have a business. And you do not need that much to get there because there are some real dumb people that like made billion-dollar products. But you do need those four things.
Yeah, and I think the thing I see people struggle with too is as far as that ladder, which I love. That was a fantastic breakdown. Where people shoot themselves in the foot is that they get impatient and they think like, well, if I jump up a rung on the ladder, I can make it work faster, especially if like, some guru is selling them a shorter version of that. But it's like ultimately like in my mind, like those owned media, truly owned media, right? Not even talking about like running ads onto a email list, right? But just raw organic, putting your stuff out there. That takes time and also takes a lot of sucking at it at first, right?
Yeah.
And like I think one of the most important things to develop is just like the consistency and the self-honesty to be like, nope, I'm just gonna keep plugging away at this piece right here until it works. Do not pass go, do not click $200, right? Because none of these are gonna help you until you have that foundation laid, right? Like, um, and even within that, like you got to learn how to think in like, at a minimum, like 30 to 90-day windows. Like it
Yeah.
can't be like, oh, I threw some shit out and no one responded, so I guess that didn't work. Right? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but you have to. So people have this policy when they look at marketing and sales where they don't think what the thing they like is marketing and sales. They just think everyone. So if you actually ask people that say they hate marketing and sales, I
mhm.
say, well, can you name marketing and sales that you
Yeah,
like what are you talking about? And then I'm like, well, like what kind of things do you like? And there's like always something that's like, oh, I like writing my blog. It's like, oh, cool. And that like gets like that like generates leads or like that does like you get usually you can't like something for the long term if there's no like reward structure. So like for like 3 to 6 months you may be able to write your blog with nobody caring, but over time, if you keep doing that, you're going to get more and more disillusioned. And so if you like something, probably it means there's a feedback mechanism. Like I do a thing, there's a reward. I like the thing, and that keeps like happening. Social media is like the most easiest to see as far as those things because we don't like channels that we don't get engagement on or we don't have friends on. We just like
right.
don't like those things. But like also any strategy that you do, like you probably can't write 50 books and nobody reads them. Just like that would be like you might be like
That's a real side.
Like Emily Dickinson can, but like a poem is a lot easier. Like I feel like you could write 100 songs and never release them because like a song is something you can do in a very small bubble. But still, you probably are going to show them to your girlfriend or your husband or your best friend. Like somehow you are going to get good enough that you're going to want other people to hear it. And like it's going to get out and then like word will spread. So there are, I've never met someone who's doing something for a long period of time and there was not a reward feedback loop that where they
Yeah,
liked it. There are things that people have done that they don't like, and that does not have a feedback loop. But things that people like over the long haul tend to have like a feedback loop where you put in 1 ounce of effort and you get 1.1 return on that attention or whatever. And so it becomes a thing of being like, okay, well, like you hate marketing, but like you say when you write books, you like get a lot of traction organically. And like, did you know that like writing a good book is just like product-led growth? Like like we're talking about product-led growth here.
mhm.
And so like if you're really good at that, you're really good at product-led growth. Like that's its own thing. Like so you are but writing something and so if you did 10 times better at that you probably would get maybe not 10 times return but you get better return on that if you just focus more energy on there. And so if you are getting feedback for a thing, it's probably marketing on some level, whether that is a conference, whether that is
Ooh,
doing talks, whether that is your podcast. Like at some point doing something leads to feedback, and when you get enough feedback you expand out and expand out. Maybe you do a concert for your girlfriend and then like oh you're for your friends and they're like oh you come talk at the come like play at my restaurant, and then you do a small show, then you do a bigger show, then you do a full show, maybe you put out an album. But like over time the feedback naturally expands if you're good at if you're good at that thing. And the problem with marketing isn't that people hate it, it's that they're doing all of the stuff that they hate and getting no return on it because they assume that the thing that they like can't possibly be marketing. And it just
that's a
is. It just
huge point.
is.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so true. And I think like there's a piece in there about like intrinsic motivation, right? Like part of that equation can be like, look, I just enjoy doing this part. And
Right.
obviously, like in the long haul, you're going to need more than just that. Although that again, that kind of depends. But ultimately, like if you're going to try to grow a business out of it, you do need more than that. Um, but but to that same point, like there's a point where it's like, and this has like been informing a lot of my thinking lately too, is like you can only actually optimize something when it's in motion. So figure out the thing that you can just do for a long time, right?
Right.
For whatever reason. And then, set your strategic checkpoints where you stop and look at the numbers and figure out like, okay, is this getting me closer to my goals or not? Also, what are my goals? Right? Like you got to get very clear
Right.
on those too. And then you can start to be like, okay, this thing, I actually think a really interesting example of this on your end would be that the conference, because and I loved reading your guys' breakdown of it in terms of like what was successful about it, but also why you don't plan to host it again. Because I thought that was a beautiful example of optimization in the sense of like this wasn't a failure. This was a resounding success. It just wasn't a success towards something that's sustainable. So now
Right.
it's a question of, well, let's pull back and look at what was successful, but also like, do we need this amount of expense and risk to accomplish that effect? Not
Right.
necessarily, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And a conference is a great encapsulation. And I thought it was a good, I mean, it was an exhausting test. But it was a great test because it's like, okay, I'm gonna put the conference happens at a time. You can't move that time once you sign a contract. Like so you have to put the effort in to that, and you can always see the effort because you're like, oh, this many attendees, this many sponsors, this many this many this, and you always know like the input of the effort because you're like, oh, we had to talk about this for like 200 days in the last year. And like 200 days equals how much money I could make for myself. And like instead it's going into this like bucket. And so I think that yes, I mean, and I have so many, like there are series, I could point to series that I've written that I just stopped. I could point to like marketing channels that I've started, and it wasn't because they were successful. They weren't successful. It was because it's like I looked in the future and I was like, I'm going to spend the next 3 months. Almost always 3 months of my life doing this. And after 3 months, I'm going to be like, okay, like I see no result. I see no reason to continue this. In fact, all of these books pretty much happened because of two things. One, I had this book Katrina Hates the Dead and one called Pixie Dust that I had kind of been sold at shows for years. And in selling the shows for years, I I had this lore of like how they came together, how they built, how the universe worked. Spend like 10 years, like maybe not 10 years, 5 years or so building up this like feedback loop of like how the world operates. And then I decided when I was going to try a whole thing of novels, I was going to make these two the bedrock things. They had already made hundreds of thousands of dollars for me. I was going to make them the bedrock. And then like it didn't work. I would lost my shirt. I think I spent like $10,000 on them and I lost like nine. No, it was more than that. It wasn't like I was still profitable in the series, but this series didn't work. And I
Yeah.
did not do them on Kickstarter. So I was like, whatever. I'm going to launch them on Kickstarter just to like make the money back on this freaking series. And once I do that, like I don't know. And what happened? Like it made enough money to pay for themselves and writing another book. And then I wrote that. I did book 9 and 10 and 11, and it became 9, 10, and 11. And I ran those. And I was like, oh, well, like those also made money. And as I was doing that, I made another graphic novel called Black Market Heroine. And I was like, oh my God, this is a great entry point into the Godsverse Chronicles. And then that made like $10,000 or $12,000 or something. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna write these four books. And then those books made like $15,000. And so like I ended up just continuing, I had this loop that just organically worked, which is the thing that I'm like we have been talking about. It's like, okay, I kept doing an action and like more success came out. The same people ask me why I started the author stack. I always tell them, I say, I've been talking about the same thing for 15 years. It's probably a good bet that I'll keep talking about it for the next
Yeah.
15 years. And so, like, I just went to not even where the money was at the time necessarily. It was just like, well, it was where the money was because we had the Kickstarter accelerate, and so I knew I was making more resonance with like the nonfiction stuff. But like, it was just the thing that I kept doing, and when I did it, people liked it. And so like when and conventions are a great mechanism like that. You can just see people getting excited and coming back and telling you they love it, like whatever that thing is. And like conventions, if you're good at selling at conventions, that's a marketing channel. If you're really good at like doing website sales and you can do or like you're great at doing a blog and getting traction for it, you're great at like search engine optimization or like just generally content marketing. If you're great at writing that book and having it go viral, you're probably great at product-led growth. If you have an amazing community who always like talks other people up and brings people in, congratulations. Like you're great at ambassador marketing. Like those are all things. And yes, a like Valve has all of those things working and multiple people at the top level working on each one of those things. But like the CEO of Valve doesn't is probably not good at SEO. They're good at like making a game.
Right. Right. Or they were at a certain point,
Sure.
but modern Valve's a little bit different. But yeah, like and one thing I really want to highlight in that story to distill it down a little bit is you created a product, you took it to market through one channel, lost money. Took that same product, took it to market through a different channel, runaway success, right?
Yeah.
I think that is such a huge thing, like especially for creatives, because I think basically every creative I've met who's serious, like we all have these moments like very deep conviction where it's like, you know what? I just know that this is a good idea, that it deserves a place in the world, regardless of the initial feedback, right? And you
Right.
could just be crazy. But sometimes that's a signal that like put it through a different channel and see what happens, right? Because maybe that instinct, in fact, I think like 9 times out of 10, that instinct is right. It's just a matter of like, you can't treat a failure of one product in one channel as a failure of the idea.
Right.
No, all the only data you got from that, excuse me, is that this product through this channel didn't work. That's it. That's the only thing you know, right?
Right.
Until
And
you
it
test
turned
otherwise.
well, yes, and it turned out that like I needed to like change the covers and I needed to change the description. Like I needed to do things to make the product more marketable so that people would. I needed the first book in it to be free. I needed time to happen so people could talk. There's all of these things that it needed to happen to be good on retailers. And now like it doesn't sell a ton, but like I constantly at least get downloads of the first book in series every day or yeah, like usually multiple a day and I'm not like out there talking about it. So yeah, absolutely. And like I said, like my thread was Kickstarter, Kickstarter and an email list. And really it was Kickstarter, an email list and conventions. And like I built an entire six-figure business on those three things. And then it like smoothed out. And frankly, like I didn't make more money the future years. Like aside from starting new businesses, like writer MBA or whatever other things that come up. Like I've like that those are the only ways I know how to make more money. I like have been making roughly the same amount in my business, which is somewhere between 108 and $140,000 a year. Like almost my entire career since 2017. What happens is there are more channels that make it smoother. In 2017, if you broke Kickstarter or you broke conventions like happened in 2020, like my business would be decimated, like I could not survive. And now I have like propagated it into more channels and figured out how more things work, so there's more steadiness. I think that the people that I have in my corner, I have deeper in my corner now. Like I have a much the people that I can collaborate with at any time are just like my co-host is a seven-figure romance author for my podcast, a six-figure author experiment. I did a book with SK Prince, who's a seven-figure romance author last year. Like I'm doing a comic with somebody else. Like I have the publishers that I work with now just like know the channels that I'm working on. Like I'm like the ninth most successful maybe eighth publishing category thing on Substack. So like I like just like have gotten but like I'm not making more money. It just is diffused and it's stabler. And I
Yeah.
think like we always look at the ceiling, but like really what makes a business is raising the floor.
Beat me to it. I was just gonna say, yeah.
And if you can raise the floor where it's like, well, I may not make more than 150 or $200,000, but like I'm not going to make less than $90,000 probably. Then like you're like, well, I can at least plan. The worst if the worst case scenario is 90 grand, guess what? Like that's not a terrible life that you lead. Like
Yeah.
you then have to be like, well, if I do better, I can put more things into production. I do X, Y, and Z other thing. And that is where like this and there's peace because like you have said for me I have created a body of work that says the thing previously in previous years I've always said well this is who I am, this is what I do, blah 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 blah, and now people come to me and they're like I'm there, like I already am with you, and so you're like oh when people ask me I'm like go read the book about capitalism I have.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I said it. So I don't want to say it either. Like, go read the blog that I have. But like, it's not like an idea that is like baking that I have to explain. It's like out there. The series, like you don't have to wonder if you will like the Godsverse Chronicles. You can just go read it. Like, go read them all. They all exist. Like, you don't have to know if you'll like if you meet me and like my philosophy, because like you could just like go read me, go read more, go listen to another podcast. I have hundreds. Go take a course, go like whatever that thing is. And like that kind of stability really, I think, is what most creators miss.
Mhm.
They and if you are going to struggle and like outpace and like burn rubber to do something, I think you should burn rubber to build enough of a base that like you have made your case. You've made your case that like this is the thing that I do. Maybe I want to start doing RPGs or another line of business, and then I may have to start and build another case. But like in general, if you want to know what I think about building a creative business, it is very clearly there.
I love that. Yeah, especially because there's two things that leap out to me there. One is that it is maybe not easier, but maybe more easeful to build something else off of that base versus having to build that base in the first place, right? Which I think is the other thing that's kind of a hard truth to accept, but it's very liberating once you do. Um, and two, it's like, that's really like, you and I both know Art Holcomb. I worked with him really closely for years, and he drilled into my head, build a body of work, build a body of work, right? And that, what you just said, gave me another piece of perspective on that. Like, it's not because you're approaching it from this very practical business perspective of like, that is actually the thing that allows you the stability and peace to do other things, right? Um, but I also think like, and you touched on this too, like there's an identity piece of that too, right? It's like you can point to the body of work and say, this is who I am. I don't have to explain it. It's right over here. Um, so I think along those same lines, now's a good time to tie back to the robo brain you discussed at the top of the call. I am very curious about that because I see the benefit. I also have a lot of hesitation in the sense that we both know that Gen AI hallucinates. And to me, the kind of ultimate nightmare scenario is like I train like a little Robo Sean, put it in front of a paying customer, and then it starts spouting stuff I would never say
Sure.
because of how they were prompting it. What's your thinking around that?
I mean, this is the biggest question that I have, right? Which is why there's a disclaimer at the top that's like, I trained this. I do not stand by. Like, it is not a guarantee that these are the things that stay. But I think one, it's picking a model that's really good, and two, that that you are training it fully. Well, maybe not fully because the brain has to, I mean, like something had to train like the model to work,
Sure.
but like that there's not other things that are like influencing it. And so one of the things I really liked about this product is that you can pick either to only say things that it knows are true based on what I trained it on, or like be adaptive, or like have some sort of balance in the middle where it like infers stuff. Um, I I it's okay, so the positive of having such a broad range of stuff is that I can find people wherever they are pretty much. Like whatever your ideal format is. Like I have podcasts, I have blogs, I have all of this stuff. But it does lead to just I think there's like 7 million words that I trained this AI on. And like, so when people come into my universe, and the reason that I did it was people came into my universe and were like, "Oh my God, there's so much." And someone emailed me this morning who joined Capitalist and was like, "There's so much, just so much. Like, what do I even do with all this stuff?" And I said, well, go to the brain. The brain was trained on all the things. The brain can give you footnote. The brain gives you footnotes on all the things that it says. You can find the best strategy, and especially with someone like you, who's like most of the people that I coach with or has come to our conference are ahead of the journey. Like they can't just read like there are things in, let's say, my build a super fandom course that like are going to be relevant to them, but like they don't have to take my build a super fandom course because like they don't need to be trained on MailChimp or whatever. Like they don't need the philosophy of this. They need to be
Right.
like, I know how do I actually make it work? And it's really hard to do that for somebody at scale. And the AI that I trained can do it at scale. And what I see generally, there are some people that went wild with the AI in the conversations that I review. Most of them are like, this is where I am. This is my ecosystem. Where do I go next? How do I break through? Okay, this is a philosophy that you have talked about. How do I actually implement it? When you look through, I mean, I sent it to everyone and I let them play test it for like a month or 2 months. And like what I saw was a lot of people that I was like, okay, like they're not asking it like self-harm questions or things like that. Like
Right.
they're asking, and I'm very clear that like I don't want to ever give advice that like is going to bankrupt someone or that has the potential to like do that. So like most like 99% of questions are in the middle. It's like you said this thing, I heard this thing. What is the thing? Like how do I mold these things together? And it's like, well, I don't know. If an AI doesn't give the perfect advice, who cares? Like, I mean,
Right.
like it's like what you are trying to do with AI is not have AI give you advice. It's to think through a problem that you have and be given clarity that you already probably know. Like you are not going to say a strategy is good, probably if it doesn't resonate with you. What you're trying to do is like, I need emails. I have a, a potato. Like, what's the squirrel to like get to the emails that
Yeah.
I need? And and that is how at least I think about it. Like, I don't want it to be like I don't want it counting or like doing anything exact. What I want and what it normally says is like, here are some strategies that work. You can here's a list of things that like you might try. This is the order that I recommend. This is what Russell says in this book, this book, this book, this book. Here's the next thing for you. These are some books that you might help. And like, I don't know. I don't because of how I think I believe people use AI and I've seen people use AI. I'm not and what they want from me. Like if I was uh I don't know, I'm trying to think of like Judge Judy, or someone's trying to get legal advice, like I
Right.
probably would not train an AI because like I don't want to give legal. I don't want an AI like to be giving that kind of advice, but I do want people to be less overwhelmed when they come into my work and see the advantage of it, which is if you sit down with my AI for 5 minutes it will tell you go read this book that Russell wrote and read this section of what Russell wrote sometimes even. And then because of how Capitalist works, you have access to all of that material. And so you can just say, oh, I'm gonna now let me search on in the back end for this thing and I'll actually read more about the strategy. I don't even necessarily want it to give strategy advice. I want it to give this is the where you go to get the full strategy. It can give full strategy advice. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's partially, I think you got to pick a model that like pick like a group. Like I wanted something that was like that people and also the philosophy that these people said was like I like we believe the future is going to be in individualized courses where people can come in and get whatever course they want at whatever time and like it makes the most impact for them and I was like that is the vision that I also see for the future. I want Sean and Jane and Bobby and Terry to get to have 4 different business models and be able to all get exactly what they need when they need it to break forward. Because nobody actually wants the course. Like
Right.
nobody. Like
Right.
people actually do want to come to New Orleans and like do the conference. Like they don't actually, but like they don't want to read a nonfiction book. They want to like resonate with a thing that they read and then have the strategy. And that is where I think like AI can like break that connection. It's like, oh, you just want I have the material. I have a guide to bring you through that material. So like if that's what you want, I can cut you to the exact part in this course that you should go to now. And that is how at least I think about this, which is different than how I think about other kinds of AI because I use AI everywhere.
Sure. Yeah. If you don't mind, which model did you pick?
So it is, and you can see it at Delphi, DELFHI dot AI forward slash. Actually, it's just easier to go russellnohelty.com forward slash AI because that will
Cool.
bring you to the thing. But it was really interesting. I saw them speak at Craft and Commerce and this company, Delphi, they said, like, we believe that humans are sequential. They had like 3 ways that humans learn. And they were like, this is how I trained this AI to learn as well. Like, sequentially, there were like 2 other ones in segments
Hmm.
and something else. And I was like, that's a really interesting. And then like I pay them and like it's their model that like I'm basically licensing from them that is
Yeah.
trained. And I wanted that a lot more than I wanted like an open source one that I could screw up. Like I'm all of my life is about trying to isolate the variables that I can screw up and being like, I understand AI pretty well, but like I don't understand how to make an AI or like when something is trained poorly. So like I want someone to do that for me.
Yeah. That's super interesting. So then how do you, um, I guess, let me, I can hear someone in the audience like thinking this question, which is, well, my economics are based on, even if it's like I'm just trying to break even on the front end of the course to sell my higher back end stuff. Like if you cut out that step or replace with the AI, how do you make the math still math, right? Like are you selling it to people as a subscription? Is
Oh
that
yeah.
price kind of relative to what the courses would be? Yeah, walk me through that.
So, Happilist is $300 a year to join, and the AI costs me $100 a month to run. So, like, assuming I have 4 people, which I already have, like, I've made more than the AI is costs. And
Right.
it's really like whenever someone emails me, like, I'm confused, there's so much stuff, where do I go? I say, go to the digital brain. Like, don't come to me after you go to the digital brain and you're still confused. Um, so I also just wanted like so this is the like I believe that part of the appeal of working with Russell is that he is testing new things and doing things that other people refuse to do, which means that like I spend a lot of time blowing like with stuff blown up in my face, but I also am like doing things that I believe my audience can see that I'm trying. And
Yeah.
so that trust is Russell may be wildly off base with this thing, but like I can see the effort that he's putting forth to make this work. And so like that is part of the package. Like that's part of like I think that's part of the Russell package. Like I don't know, Russell has a conference. It's gonna be good. I don't know what
Right.
it's gonna be, but like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go to it or like whatever that thing is. I I feel like the more stuff you have. So if you're training someone how to use Pinterest, like and that's the only thing that you do, you probably don't need an AI because
Right.
like you just are taking people through one process. But I have like 10 books in my author stack brand and 1,000 blog posts and roughly 500 or 600 episodes of podcast. And that is not even including all of the course content that I have. Like there's so much stuff that is disparate. And my belief in intersectionality is so deep that like I believe that the only way you can truly transform your life is to look at stuff at the intersection of craft, commerce, and all of these industries. And if you need something to synthesize that, and if you believe that your audience all comes from different industries and different things with different experiences, and you need to synthesize stuff and then send them on their way, like what other option? Like the options are either you sit on a call and do coaching with people,
Right.
which is not the base of my business. I mean, I do coach
Yeah.
people, but like most people save up all their questions and then ask me their questions at like one time, like once a year or twice a year. And I'm like, so you spent 6 months just like not making any progress for this moment.
Yeah.
And so like this seems like a low lift way to say, I understand there are 500 people that are in this master in this thing. They all have their own stuff. They all live their own places, and like you all have different goals. Might have similar goals, but different threads. So I'm making this thing that like can take in where you are and send you to the place that is right for you. Again, I don't necessarily think I would do this if I was teaching a platform or if I was like, if I hadn't been doing this for so long, I don't know if I would need to do. I may be able to just create like a word bank of stuff, or like a lot of
Yeah.
people have like a code bank or like a bunch of like prompts or whatever, like a prompt library. But I want people to not get information from ChatGPT. I want people to get information that I have curated from all of these sources. And so, which means I can't send them to a custom GPT. I don't
Right.
want them to go to a custom GPT because then they might get good advice or they might get terrible advice, but they will not get my advice. I
Right.
want them to get my advice because they are paying for me. Anyway, so the membership is $300 a year currently. And I know that's way lower than it should be, but my goal is to make something that is so cheap that you can automatically renew it every year without thinking very much.
Yeah.
And that's cheap enough that like you can just say, oh, well, I mean, that's an easy yes. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, hopefully everyone that's listening is like, okay, well, like 300, everyone who's listening to this and is in a position to do so, like, hopefully will say, oh, well, like, sure, that makes sense. Like, I don't know, like there's a whole bunch of stuff in there and there's 1,000 posts and all this stuff. Like there has to, and there's an AI to do it on top of it, which is the final thing is as a sales mechanism, it's very good. Like sometimes
Yeah.
things are not profitable, but they are the extra bit because when I talk to people, they all are have course overload. They all have information overload. So just
Mhm.
saying, I have this membership with a bunch of people together, they would say, oh, great. Like I can just get a bunch of my friends together on Zoom. Like, what is the thing that you offer? Like that is like not a Zoom call or like your books that I can just go buy or like your courses that a lot of people have taken and disseminated already and often is disseminated. Like what is the value? And the value is like in me in me having a look at your business and being able to guide you through the resources that I have developed. And like that may be the kicker. My assumption is that that will be the kicker for a lot of people who already have a lot of my courses. Because like Sean, you have all my courses. Like you have all of them. And
Right.
like what thing would like why would you join a membership even if you have most of my books as well at least because I've given to everyone who comes to the
Mhm.
mastermind, but like you don't know how to synthesize it together necessarily. And you don't want to go through. So what I'm really saying is, hey, Sean, will you pay me $300 a year to take all of those courses and just give you the direction every time you need it? And the answer, hopefully, then will at least be closer to yes. And I will say, oh, Well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
You haven't moved forward on this information for the last 2 years. You probably won't for the next 2 years. But if I can just say, this is where you are now, this is what you should do at the next step, maybe I will spurn you into action. And that action step is why people renew. That is why people do memberships, because they get actionable results and community.
Right. And like, I know we're a little bit over time, but if I may, I'd like to rip on that for a bit. Just because like there's so much fear right now in the coaching consulting space around AI, but I'm with you on this where just on it, basically on every point, right? Because it's like I think the people they're just sending people off to a custom GPT are in for a rough time, right? That's going to backfire at some point. But going through thoughtfully and building a very like well-structured custom solution like this is fantastic because essentially it's an engine for creating more sophisticated customers, which then ultimately you can better monetize on the back end, right? If you like whatever you coach or consult in, that is always the goal, right? You want to be creating more sophisticated customers within your own ecosystem so that not only can you justify charging higher prices, but they only want to buy it from you, right?
Right.
And this is exact like which really, if you break down like why people have all these courses and stuff anyway, it was the best solution we had at the time to create that effect, right? Where it's like, well, if I just put a ton of courses and content at all different price points, people will by themselves kind of collate that together and get as far as they can until they need my one-on-one help. What this does is that it dramatically speeds up that process and makes it way more attractive so that now, like, I mean, instead of hoping that someone finds the time to read dozens of books and gets the nuggets they need and actually implements them over years, right?
Right.
They could probably knock that out in an afternoon. And then it's like, well,
Right.
shit, what else can Russell give me?
Yeah,
Even if
my
I do have to
so
pay for it.
So like my consulting is it's like 175 an hour currently, but it really should be
Right.
like it's really like 250 an hour, but like I'm so like at 150 an hour, less than 2 hours. So like you like in less than 2 sessions, you have made up this thing. And do I and if it and would I rather give you an AI that can do 2 hours of work in like 10 minutes without us ever, or like, do I want to spend the 2 hours on the phone, like talking through and
And
like,
repeating yourself.
yes, and probing the thing and like getting like getting all the information beforehand and then doing that stuff. And like, I don't mind. If you want to pay me $350 or $400 or whatever it is currently to book me, I will take it. But like, I would rather say, for less than 2 hours of time, you have all of my work and the shortcut that I would give you. Because the shortcut, like what I would say is, okay, you should do email. You should look at these 5 resources. And like, then you should specifically look at this strategy. And like, so I have basically like that's what a consulting call is, aside from therapy. Like, aside from it being therapy, like hopefully
Right,
by the
right.
end you have like direction. Just like, okay, so give me $300 a year, even if it's 2 in the morning. Like, even if you speak only Bengali, like this thing can talk in any language, anywhere you are, at any point. And yes, you might only use it for 5 minutes a year. But frankly, if you gave me $400 or whatever it is, you'd also only be paying for that 5 minutes. Like you're not
Yeah,
paying for the 2 hours. You're paying for me to take in all of your information and synthesize it to give you a direction at the end. And so I think people get this like hour by hour thing like
right.
really wrong. Because like if if I said, Sean, give me $400. I'll give you your biggest benefit. Like, I'll just email you back like the biggest benefit and like where to go now and like the
Yeah,
structure. You'd be like, oh, and like you could do that while you're like have your baby in one hand. Like you can
yeah,
just do that then. I think most people be like, oh, well, yeah, I want that. Like that's what I really want. Like I'm not take I'm very charming human, but I don't think anyone wants to spend 2 hours on the phone with me dissecting their business. Some people do just want a bitch session, and like I'm fine with that, but I think most people Often they'll read a product and read a book and be like, I'm lost. Russell, help me. Or I've tried everything. I don't know where to go. Russell, help me. And there's all of these threads in, but it ends with like, Russell, help me. And I only do calls for like 7 hours a week. So like, unless you want help on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday between 9 and 3, like Pacific time, I don't know. Like you're
Right.
like if it's Friday, you can't book a call. So you're gonna spend 5 days not. And this is where what your clients are thinking. I guarantee everyone's clients is thinking that, like that you need you if you want to build long-term success, you need to get someone to have a triage problem, and you need to get them where the triage is. So everyone that comes into your ecosystem, when they are first coming in, very few are like, oh, I just need a general human to like, oh, Russell's so general. I'm gonna listen to him talk about you. That comes later. Usually
Right.
someone's like, oh my God, my house is on fire. I need to fix this solution. And so they come in and you're like, boom, this is the solution right here. Like, there you go. Like right then and there. Then you triage that problem and it works. And that is how people balloon out into being these great people. But until you triage someone's problem or help them over the next hump, like they are not going to like be super loyal to you. Like it's
Right.
only in that like loyalty that loop that people might like you, but they're not going to buy from you. Like people will hang out and read and sit around, but like nobody's paying $2,000 to just hang out with you. Like they want a thing. Like they want you. Now they might have hung out with you enough that they think you are the right solution for their problem, but like they are not giving you money just because they like you. If they like you, usually it is because you solved one of their problems along the way, and they believe that you will solve the next one.
Yeah. That is an awesome note to end on. What a great nugget of wisdom there. You've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much, Russell. The links to everything Russell talked about earlier, I'll make sure are down here in the description of the video. But yeah, any like final thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, what I tell people all the time is that your self-worth is not tied to your money. And the biggest thing you can break is that belief because it's really appealing on the way up. And everyone goes up. Like what happens is you have not had success for a while, and then suddenly you start having success and the train goes up. Like that's the only way it can go. Like otherwise you'll give up. So like, and when you might go up a little, it may go up a lot, but like it's real fun to tie your self-worth to the money as you're going up. But just as much as it has to go up, there is a ceiling for every human. There is a down, and it is not fun. This is where, I mean, not to get too more, but like this is where creators die. Like
Yeah.
literally, this like this. If they can, if you stuck, you're like now you finally feel like you were good enough, and then like you go down and you're like, what did I do? I suddenly am not like this is way worse than the up. Than the up is good. Like this is where like people start drinking themselves to death and just like all of this stuff. So like the best thing you can do is understand that like you deserve to be here as much as anyone else. Like your self-worth, you have as much self-worth as the King of England, like just for existing. The second thing you should know is that capitalism is stupid and it makes no sense. So like even if you did tie that thing, like none of it makes sense. Like a thing that was not working last week suddenly could be working, and you just happen to get it on that one day, and then oops, it no longer works again, and it never will work again. And you're like, what happened? I finally had a thing. And it's like capitalism doesn't make sense. Stop trying to make sense of it.
Mhm.
Understand that it is consistent, which is the most important thing that any framework or any system can be. It does not have to be logical. It just has to
Mm.
say, if I do X, Y, and Z, then J happens. And every time I do X, Y, and Z, some form of maybe it won't be as good or as bad, but like I know that in general, I understand that this formula of these events lead to this outcome. And then you say, well, I don't like that outcome. You have to change one of these. And it might be getting a bigger audience. It might be making a more marketable book. It might be, well, there's all sorts of things that can change. But once you have that sequence of events, then like you have a business.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll hit the end record button there, and folks, see you next time.